right, let's see what kind of trouble we can get into here on a Wall Pass Wednesday in a hotel room in Auburn, Alabama. John Nelson here with you, SDH AM. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, which means anything's on the table. And I'm going to need your advice and forbearance, and just let me know how things sound. So just we'll go with that, because of you and me and technology, we all know how this goes. Once again, apologies for 906. I was trying to get things to work. So we'll see what kind of trouble we can get in here today. Here's the rundown. Hour number 2 is where the guests come in. Dylan Butler is going to join us at 10 o'clock. We're going to talk men's national team, World Cup, all the things on that side of the equation. Bart Keeler, after the 2-game road trip for the women's national team in Brazil, we're going to go over both matches, and we're going to find out what is on Bart's mind after what happened late last night, because there were a lot of red cards. 8. None of them on the United States. And so we'll get into it's almost like a hybrid of reffing down here and looking at what's going on with the women's team. And yeah, it's going to be it's going to be interesting. Let's phrase it that way. So that will be part of the discussion when Bart comes in at 10:30, and we'll break down everything there. So that's the rundown this morning on the B side. A side, we're going to have highlights. We're going to take you through what happened here last night in Auburn. Largest soccer crowd in Alabama State history, over 88,000 at Jordan-Hare Stadium. 88,083, I think, was the number that was posted. Argentina, Iceland, we do have a highlight. We do have some posts from the Iceland national coach, and we'll kind of walk through that. That'll be the opening kickoff element in all of this. And like I said, we've got the tail end of the match last night in Brazil. We've got Emma Hayes to listen to. Jim Curtin was introduced as the new Major Domo in Austin. So we've got some of that to get into this morning. All the news will be in hour number 1. And like I said, guests in hour number 2. We'll talk World Cup national team, women's national team, all the things, and reffing down here. That's in hour number 2. But hour number 1 is what is on the news collective minds and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where we're going to be here this morning. And like I said, we'll break it all down for you, and it's going to be like I said, it's going to be fun and interesting. And like I said, and I apologize ahead of time for the graininess that is attached. Once again, you sit there and it's like, okay, so what's the power going to be like? And then we find out. So we'll find out about and I had signed up for, the extra special internet-y stuff. That's the official term. Extra special internet-y stuff. But I'm going to try something here real quick, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time for the signal. And if the signal drops, I'm going to apologize for that, and then we'll go back to where we were. So let me try something real quick. Like I said, it looks great to me. Looks grainy on return. So I'm going to try something, and we'll see if this works. And if I drop, I apologize, because it's the A block. So here, let me try something here real quick. And all right, so there's hidden networks. I don't want that. Come on. Where's my options? This will be opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. And it is an opportunity for John to figure out about technology. So we'll see what happens here. Like I said, I thought I had registered with the extra special powered, the hyper powered internet, but I guess not. It's like I got caught in a loop in it last night when I was trying to sit there and go, well, yeah, I want to try this. All right, so now I'm going to try something. I'm going to try a hot change, and we'll see about technology here. So let's see if this. If the technology in and of itself is better here, and if it in fact looks better, sounds better, is better, let me know. That's the biggest thing in all of it. When it comes to the signal, it might be a little better. We go there, but it's also kind of drifty. I don't know if we really gained anything by doing that. So tell you what, let's go and we'll go back to we'll go form here. And so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. The hotel internet, and that's kind of where we are. All right, so we're going hotel internet, and I apologize for how I look. And like I said, I'm a little grainy this morning, so I apologize for all of that. So there we go. All right, so we'll just go with grainy and thinking that we had actually signed up for the high-powered internet when it really didn't work. So there we go. All right, so that'll be opening kickoff. Morning, David. And like I said, I apologize ahead of time with how I look, just because of, you're sitting there and you're thinking one thing is going to work and then it doesn't, and then you're just kind of off and running. So John figuring out the signal strength in the hotel is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Start your day with all the news that's fit to print and all the news you need to know. Start your day also with Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Hardy Beans from Brazil and Guatemala. They are part of the SDH community, so you can be sure to start your day off the best way you can with Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. All right, so here we go. Last night here in Auburn, Alabama, it was a moment for the state of Alabama and for soccer in the Southeast. For soccer, and this also might be kind of like section 2 of the whole thing with opening kickoff. But last night here in Auburn, largest crowd ever in the history of the state to watch a soccer match. 88,083 was the announced number. And for the record, we are efforting the Auburn University soccer community to come on and discuss the residuals and the experience and all that kind of stuff. And we'll keep you posted on that guestage as we go. So you had last night, and there's a written piece that's up at soccerdownhere.net about it. But one thing that I wish could have happened, I wish that Mother Nature would have been distracted and not basically just dumped an entire bathtub on Auburn as a community over the latter sections of the afternoon and early part of the evening. Because what you ended up doing was you denied the social element of all of this. And you had so many folks wearing Argentina jerseys, so many folks wearing Messi jerseys, and you had Inter Miami, you had Argentina, you had Barca, you had PSG, you had all of the different ideas and all the different versions of Lionel Messi wandering through the concourse in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And it is Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'll leave it there. You had all of that happening, but if you had been able to have the tailgating experience that we're used to seeing on a daily basis, when you come here for a college football Saturday, Friday, what have you, you missed out on all of that because Mother Nature decided probably about 4 o'clock local time that she just wanted to just empty the skies. And I mean, it was biblical proportions of rain. It was pouring, and there was lightning on top of the stadium and on top of the city, is to a point where the boss was jumping out of her seat in the passenger seat of the car as we're trying to make our way to the stadium because the lightning and the thunder are like right on top of us. Great light show, but scaring the ish out of everybody who was on the road going in toward the football stadium. You didn't get the chance to have the Southeastern Conference grillers connect with the Argentine chefs and their imagination. That's the one thing I wish that we could have seen, is to have those two cultures. You got the football culture to combine. That you got the FOOTBALL and the FUTBOL. You got that to combine. And you had Auburn take their elements that they're used to seeing and we're used to seeing on a college football Saturday, and you got that involved. You got the light show. You got the flyover. You got the things that make a college football Saturday instinctively and distinctively Auburn's. You got to add that to the mix. I just wish you could have gotten the tailgating aspect, because could you have imagined a Southern griller, and we know what those industrial strength grills are like. We know what they're like. Those things that get transported up and down the freeway, and they're probably about 7 feet long, and it's the big smoker, and you pull the tab down, you pull the roof of it down, and it smokes. If you'd been able to combine the asado talent and the grilling talent, that would have been something to behold. You got the shared athletic experience. What you were missing was the shared cooking experience. And I'd like to thank Mother Nature for just basically ishing all over the whole thing. So it was that was the one part in all of this that I wish we could have been able to sample, was how the forces could have combined, and you could have had a truly amazing experience when it comes to the combination of the asado A-listers and the grilling A-listers. That was the one part that really would have put this over the top. And think about what happened at Kyle Field over the weekend when it was Argentina and Honduras. You combine that, morning, Will. You combine that with what happened here in Auburn, and it's almost 180,000 people. You had 91,000 plus in College Station at Kyle Field. You had 88,000 plus in Auburn. Morning, Ricky. And Ricky, I have your match day scarf. I have it. It is in my possession. So we just have to figure out how to get it to you. That's the big thing here. So that's the larger thing for the priority with Ricky. I have his match day scarf. So if you have 180,000 people in 2 locations, in 2 of the places where we know it just means moss, and I'm trying to convince Jason that we probably should just go ahead and fire off that this is an SEC, where it just means moss. We need to add that to the trademarks that we have. 180,000 people in 2 places over a 4-day period in the Southeastern Conference cannot be wrong. It's not, we know this as an audience. We know that this is not for a double negative. This is not an atypical happening. And to be able to show off and reinforce what we know is the whole thing. To be able to sit there and go, and for those of you that are on the 280, there's been a gentleman who has come over from Germany for his World Cup experience, and he was here last night. And yes, we've reached out to Freddie on the social medias to see if we can get him to be on the show. So when you get to see that kind of experience, when Max Bretos posts the video that Freddie shot of the flyover, and you get to combine all of these things. Pats, what you chasing after something? What? Oh, key. Well, then here. Let me see. Well, I thought I had a key. Like right in here someplace. So, it's in it's in here. That's the backup keys there. It's in it. So when you've got 180,000 people, we've known this, that the sport is what it is, and there's a universality to it. And you have a moment where, and the only thing missing in Kyle Field was the band. If you'd had the band, that would have been fantastic. But we've known this, that the South's got something to say when it comes to soccer. And to be able to have that kind of experience reinforced twice over a 5-day period, 4-day period, 5-day period. It seems like everyone outside of the SDH footprint seems to be surprised about this. We are not surprised. This is stuff that we've known. But to be able to reinforce and to share, hey, this is not anything to be laughed at, unappreciated, what have you. It's a reinforcement of what we've already known, and it's great to see how the Southeast has its own flavor to it, its own ideas, its own representation. There's the appreciation is there, the sport is there, the love is there, and to see in College Station and to see in Auburn how everything is there with a bit of a twist. That's the part that, thank you, Mother Nature, for ishing all over that section of the idea. But we've seen this, we've known this, and it got to be an opportunity over a 5-day period where you get to kind of show things off a little bit and sit there and go, hey, the South knows what it's doing here. It has its own thoughts and patterns and stuff that can be embraced and embedded into the entire experience. And you end up with what we've seen twice in the SEC in the last 2 days. So like I said, we are efforting from Auburn University a presence. I'm not going to jinx who it might be, but it's an idea where we get to find out what the residuals are. But it was great to see 88,000. It was a sellout. I mean, there's some gaps and things like that, but they sold 88,083 tickets sold. Argentina gets $12 million out of the deal. Iceland gets $325,000 out of the deal, all inclusive. And you get to continue to rub off on what's going on here in an area that we know, and we know very well. And to be able to sit there and go, well, yeah, this is how it's done here in this particular part of the country. That's just how it is. South puts its own unique spin. The Southeast puts its own unique spin on things. But at its core, it's still the same experience. It is folks who have their college football chants walking side by side with folks who are learning about Toomer's Lemonade for the first time. They're learning about Mama Goldberg's. They're learning about Chicken Salad Chick. They're learning about Southern food. They're learning about, the twists that are there. So the shared experience, and that's what this tournament that we're about to continue to blow up here at the network, it's what it's all about. It's about welcoming everyone in under the proverbial tent and going, we all love it the same. It's just we look at it a little different. We can have our differences when it comes to who we think the best is and who we think what's going to happen with this team and this matchup and all this kind of stuff. And if you're doing brackets, you better do them now. Don't know, Katie. I hope he is. Will, I hope the Argentines took over Skybar. And that literally the one, and I will add this to the mix. The other part of all of this is that the boss was wondering if they were going to roll Toomers after Argentina won as the home team last night. Then that was the other element in all of this. Is we were driving by Toomers after waiting in the parking lot for about an hour and 15 minutes because no one moved. That's another matter entirely. The only element post-game was the inability or just the idea of, hey, they should have rolled Toomers. That would have could you imagine the Albi Celeste being taken by the Auburn student body to the corner to roll Toomers? That, I think, after the match, of course, it was also like 1:00 in the morning, but and there was some of the places were open on the in and around campus, but not everything was open. But you needed to have the Argentina fans roll Toomers corner. That might have been the topping on top of it all. Just a thought. So next time when they come, if you know anyone who is an Auburn fan / part of the student body, take them to Toomers corner and have them roll it. Anyway, so that's that's kind of the lowdown from what happened last night. And the written story is up at soccerdownhere.net. Can't thank our friend Jack Patterson from WRBL TV in Columbus and everyone else that has been here along the way. Like I said, we are investing and we are efforting an Auburn presence to discuss the after effects of all of this. To that effect, here is goal number 3 from last night. And it has to do with an individual that in this footprint, a lot of folks know and a lot of folks may remember. I don't know if you in fact remember this particular individual, but he's pretty decent at the soccering. Valentin Barco gets the goal in the 8th minute to make it 1-0. Lautaro Martinez is taken down inside the 18 by the Icelandic keeper. This Messi guy that everybody talks about puts the ball in the back of the net from the spot to make it 2 after being in there for like 2 minutes. And then goal number 3, courtesy of ESPN, Adrian Healy and Ali Moreno on the call.
The crowd getting what they came for. Just an appearance, but a goal from Lionel Messi. Argentina just trying to ease their way through the final minutes of preparation here before the World Cup gets underway in earnest in a week's time. Here's Messi sliding it through again, surely, and it is number 3. Beautiful finish in the end from Almada, and it was so well worked as the Iceland defense just melted.
And they did, in fact, melt at that point. I think, honestly, after the PK, and then you had substitutions and such, I think that was pretty much how the kids say, all she wrote. After the match, it was an opportunity to catch up with both coaches. And here is part of the discussion from the head coach of the Icelandic national team. And he was asked about the experience in and of itself and what he thought about what was learned with all the time that they were able to spend here in the United States and specifically in Auburn. So Arnar Gunnlaugsson after the match in a 3-0 loss to Argentina.
All in all, it's a major gap in our FIFA ranking. We are 75th, they are number 1. And what does it mean? It really means that those guys that just kick the ball just a little bit harder than we do, they run just a little bit faster than we do, they control the ball just a little bit better than we do, and they are just stronger in duels than we do, and that's the name of the game. That's why they are number 1 and we are number 75. But I thought we did quite well overall, especially the first maybe 60-70 minutes. We had some good chances, we had some good pressing moments, we kept the ball sometimes, and as a coach you want to see that against the best. It's really easy to go into these kind of games and play a low block and don't touch the ball for 90 minutes, but what's the purpose of that? So I thought we gave a good account of ourselves, and obviously towards the end with all the substitution, the game kind of went chaotic, but all in all, it was a great experience to be here, great experience to share a few minutes on the pitch with the legend of our game. So I'm usually not this happy after a loss, but I can settle for this loss based on the experience we will gain from this match.
Arnar Gunnlaugsson after the match. And just to give you an idea about just some of the stats, if you want to get locked into this, because it was a 3-0 win for Argentina. Most of the big guns for Lionel Scaloni, they were on the bench to start. There were some substitutions that were made at halftime, and I think that they maxed it out at like 11, so you could swap out whomever you needed to if you wanted to. Rulli was in net, and it was a 4-4-2, which is what Scaloni has been able to. He's kind of tweaked things with the injuries and the monitoring of folks' health getting into the World Cup itself. Rulli in net, back four, Medina, Martinez, Otamendi, who wore the captain's armband, and GI. Valentin Barco, Palacios, Gio Lo Celso, and Simeone were your midfielders. Two in the attack up top, Lopez and Nico Paz. Substitutions that were made at the break: Christian Romero, Enzo Fernandez, Rodrigo de Paul, Alexis, Lautaro Martinez in at the break. Thiago Almada came in with 30 to go, as did Nico Gonzalez. And then Montiel and Messi came in with 20 to go. So you end up with 9 substitutions. Julian Alvarez did not play. Ovando, Capaldo, Nahuel Molina, Juan Musso, and Beltran did not play for Scaloni. So that was the lineups and the minutes that were there. And you figured that since Scaloni did say that Messi was going to play, and with conditions being what they were, any of the big guns you figured that was wiped off the board when the skies opened up. And that was another thing. Go back, and this is the request for the day. Go back into the TIC, and if you're looking at it, TYC Sports, TIC, go back into their Twitter account. They were live from Jordan-Hare, and they were seeing, after the rain had happened, they were just marveling at the squeegees and the army of squeegees and the jet engine dryers. They were marveling at that. And the point that Jarrett Smith and the rest of us were making during all of the rain that was happening yesterday afternoon, don't mess with an agricultural school when it comes to cleanup. They were locked in place, and it was pretty good. So big chances, 5-2, total shots 15-6. It was 34 fouls called in the match. And Rosendo Mendoza from MLS was the man in the middle. Rosendo Mendoza, for those that may not necessarily remember, it's like we do talk about him when we do discuss center refs and things like that. Rosendo Mendoza was the man in the middle for the Inter-Miami Philadelphia Union match that was beyond chaos at the tail end of the first part of the season, first third of the season. The Sunday night soccer match in Fort Lauderdale with Messi and friends in Philadelphia that went off the rails. He was in the middle for that. He was also in the middle for Atlanta United and FC Cincinnati earlier this year. So that's your baseline for Rosendo Mendoza. Lost control of the match with Iceland, playing the way that they play. Very, very physical. Didn't assert himself early on. Should have probably given cards a lot sooner than he did. The 21 fouls that Iceland committed, 6 of them he considered to attach yellow cards to. And for Argentina, it was 2 yellows on 13 fouls, but 6 yellow cards on 21 fouls. Frankly, it could have been a lot more, and probably should have been a lot more. Honestly, it should have been a lot more. And you probably should have been down a man if you were Iceland, because there was some nasty stuff that was going on in there. And Rosendo Mendoza didn't pull the trigger early. And this is a discussion we'll get into with Bart in about an hour, having to do with refs and control. So that's part of the discussion. But Rosendo Mendoza was in the middle last night, and it got pretty heavy pretty quick. So 34 fouls were called, 21 of them on Iceland, and 6 yellows on Iceland. Shots on target, 7-1. Twice they hit the woodwork. I thought it was more than that. Shots off target, 5-4 for Iceland. Shots inside the box, 10-5. And touches inside the opposition 18, 32-8. But this is Iceland playing the way that they do. They don't want possession. Ball's got cooties. Possession ended up 2-1, even as a game was 3-0. And you had literally a team that did not want the ball. They wanted to try to create turnovers, short fields, clinical finishes. Iceland kind of did that. That was their way, and then they were very physical and fouled to a further extent than they should have been allowed to, frankly. And fouls in the final third, 6-2, and it was kind of the end of the run there for Iceland going up against Argentina. So passes in the final third, 79 out of 96 for Argentina, 32 of 59 for Iceland at a total of 54%, 23 long balls compared to 19. It was kind of, when it comes to the duels, it was 38-33. Iceland had a little bit more success in the air than Argentina, who was doing well on the ground. So recoveries 34-29, clearances 11-6 to Iceland. And so, but yeah, the bigger numbers in all of this: passes in the final third, 79 out of 96, 32 of 59, possession once again 2-1, even as you were chasing, 15 shots compared to 6, 7 on target compared to 1. And Arnar Gunnlaugsson, the head coach of Iceland, was happy about the experience, and a good time was had by all. But no, it was a great thing to see last night. And once again, 180,000 people in 2 SEC markets can't be wrong. I don't think they are. But it just reinforces over the last 4 or 5 days where things stand. So no shocks. All right. let's get into all the other things that happened yesterday, and obviously let everybody know what's going on the Twitch pitch. And thanks to all of you folks who've already chimed in this morning. And we'll rock and roll from there. All right. Other stuff going on. And so, of course, my rundown has gone completely sideways here. Looking at all of the other events from yesterday, let's get into the highlights themselves of what happened with the women's national team in Brazil. Second match of a 2-game road trip in Fortaleza, and it was a crowd twice what was experienced the first time at Neoquímica. Neoquímica had 30,000. Last night in Fortaleza, they had 56,000. This was why Emma Hayes scheduled these trips, and this trip specifically, to get ready for next year's World Cup, to be ready for moments like what happened last night. And like I said, when Bart comes in about an hour, we're going to break down what happened, and it was, in fact, a breakdown. So that was an unintentional proper choice of words. It got out of control, and the listing of all of the activity that happened involving refs going like this is insane when you think about it. So here is the end of the match, the end of the match, courtesy of our friends at TNT. It was the end of a rather large adventure last night in Fortaleza. Luke Weilman and Julie Foudy on the call. I think what I probably did is, did I load the wrong thing? I might have loaded the wrong thing. Hang on just a second. Yeah, I did load the wrong thing. Okay, so I screwed that up. Anyway, it was an opportunity for me to actually play a highlight, but I loaded the wrong thing. Anyway, so let's get to Emma Hayes. So Emma Hayes, after the match is over, she gets to address the surrounding media. Here's just a part of that press conference. And considering what happened in the match itself with all the cards, here's what Emma Hayes had to say after the match, courtesy of our friends at US Soccer.
My job is to have respect for the officials. My job is to make sure I stay in my technical area. There is only one person allowed to stand. And my job is to be a role model for my players, to display the behaviors to them that I want from them. And so I can only talk about my behavior. And I thought my behavior was good. And I thought my behaviors with my players in a very, very fantastic environment with a very noisy crowd. They bring a lot of energy. And I am very happy with the way I behaved today. So I can only speak to that.
She's very happy about how she behaved today. Like I said, when Bart shows up here in just a little bit, obviously, we will discuss the other part of the equation here. But I wanted to get into the numbers. So last night, women's national team goes to Fortaleza, gets the 1-0 win. It was an own goal. And that's kind of why I didn't want to have the Sophia Wilson own goal as a highlight, because it was there. It happened. U.S. wins 1-0. 55,744 at the Arena Castelao. Once again, part of why Emma Hayes wanted to do this was so she could sit there and line this up and go, this is what it's going to be like next year. It's going to be like this in this building against these fans, or a set of fans next year. And it could be a match where you end up going up against Brazil. So you have 55,744 at the Arena Castelao. Own goal in the 63rd minute, Sophia Wilson. Several chances had been created earlier, including one by Wilson that was saved by Lorena. We'll get into the numbers in a bit. So, and this was how it was phrased. In a chaotic match that featured multiple stoppages, hard fouls, and a remarkable 8 ejections. 1 to Brazil head coach Arthur Elias, 3 more to bench personnel, 2 to players during the match, and 2 more to players after the final whistle. Through just one of the USA's 13 shots found the back, though just one of the USA's 13 shots found the back of the net. Team had 55% possession. Brazil had 6 shots on the night, none on target. U.S. creates most of the chances in the first half. Lindsay Heaps in the 21st. Then Michelle Cooper. who switched to a right back going forward, kind of like what we see with Alex Freeman. On the men's side, you got to see that with Michelle Cooper. On the women's side last night, timed an opportunity with Lily Johannes, back-to-back opportunities, first half stoppage. And so here's how it was, once again, here's how it was phrased after the fact. The flow of the game was massively disrupted during the final 25 minutes due to the ejections both on and off the field. Elias ejected in the 78th, along with his strength coach and 2 keeper coaches for foul and abusive language. Near the end of regulation in the 89th, another member of the staff was sent off. Referee then added 10 minutes of stoppage time, and she would add another 2 after that due to Brazil's lack of discipline. Bia Zanerato was ejected after seeing her second yellow in the 4th minute for punching Emily Sonnet. And then central defender Tarcian received a straight red for striking Wilson at 90+9 after the final whistle. 2 more players were shown reds, Caroline and Ludmila, for confronting the referee. That was the part that I was going to play, was the tail end of the whole thing. So here's the stats from last night. Starting 11 averaged 54 caps heading in, 3.5 caps less than the last match. U.S. head coach Emma Hayes made 6 changes for match number 1. Starting 11 had Michelle Cooper, Emma Sears, Rose Lavelle, Avery Patterson, Kennedy Wesley, Claudia Dickey. Those were your changes. Ahead of the match on June 6th, the U.S. last played in Brazil in the 2016 Olympics. Last time U.S. played Brazil in Brazil was in December 2014. Fox passed Sydney Leroux for sole ownership of 52nd place, women's national team all-time caps with 78. Rose Lavelle passed Lori Fair with 122. First time Fox, Sonnet, Wesley, and Patterson started a match on the back line together. Claudia Dickey gets her 8th shutout, 11th win in as many appearances for the WNT. Tonight, last night's crowd at Fortaleza set an all-time women's sports attendance record, shattering the previous women's soccer attendance record for the entire northeast region of Brazil, which was 33,272, set at the Arena Pernambuco. 65 degrees, clear skies, starting 11. Dickey, Fox, Trinity Rodman comes in at the half. Sonnet, Wesley, Avery Patterson, Lily Johannes, Claire Hutton came in with 30 to go. Lindsay Heaps wore the captain's armband. Rose Lavelle, Olivia Moultrie with 30 to go. Sophia Wilson started. Allie Sentner came in at 90+12. Michelle Cooper, Emma Sears. Shots, USA 13, Brazil 6. Shots on goal, 6-0. 6 saves for Brazil along the way. Each team had 5 corners. 28 fouls in the match. 20 of those go to Brazil. 8 fouls on the United States the entire time. 6 offside calls on Brazil, 1 for the United States. Spanish referee crew, and what I mean by that is legitimately Spain. Paula Cebollada Lopez was in the middle. Sylvia Fernandez Perez, Rosia Puente Pino were your ARs. 4th official was Deborah Cecilia Cruz Correa from Brazil. Your VAR also was Spanish. Maria Eugenia Gil Soriano and Judith Romana Garcia were your VAR and your AVAR, respectively. So, misconduct summary. This is going to take a bit. Rose Lavelle gets a caution in the 17th. Gio Garbellini a caution in the 23rd. Arthur Elias gets his first caution in the 37th. Zanerato, first caution in the 43rd, along with Lindsay Heaps, so you get a bang-bang. Taina Maranhão in the 48th. Arthur Elias, second yellow, red card, 78th minute. Bench, red, 78th. Secondary bench, red, 78th. So basically, 78th minute, Arthur Elias, head coach for Brazil, the way it's on the book, gets his second yellow, gets the red, 2 other bench reds along the way. So 3 members of the coaching staff, you got to go. Claire Hutton gets a yellow in the 82nd. A 3rd bench ejection for Brazil in the 89th. Caroline gets a caution at 90+1. Zanerato gets her second yellow at 90+4, so yellow, red. Claudia Dickey, 90+5, gets a yellow. Emma Sears at 90+8 gets a yellow. Tarcian at 90+9 gets a red. Marta gets a yellow at 90+9. Caroline and Ludmila, after the match, they got lit up. So that's your cards. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 instances of misconduct. 8 red cards, all of them to Brazil. U.S. wins by the score of 1-0. And like I said, we'll catch up with Bart in about 45 minutes. We may even start with this, but we'll get into the discussion of reffing down here when it comes to discipline and your environment and control and all of those things. We will view it through the prism of the match here in Auburn, and we'll view it through the prism first and foremost with what happened in Fortaleza last night as the U.S. went on to win 1-0. So that is the early rundown of reffing down here, and Bart joining us at 10:30. Dylan Butler set to join us in about 15 minutes. Also on the board, Jim Curtin was announced as the new head coach in Austin for Austin FC. And the intriguing part about this is that Jim Curtin was first. Traditionally, in a situation where you're naming a new head coach, it has to do with getting the sporting director in line and then the sporting director, and then you go top down. While indications, Jim Curtin is going to have impact/influence and input on who the sporting director is going to be, which is a unique situation. You're handing the keys over to your head coaching hire, and this is going to take place once again when the season's over. Jim Curtin will take over at Austin, but Jim Curtin will have a say in the sporting director. Quoting him, he had several other opportunities, both within MLS and abroad. One of those was Portland. Stumptown Fee said as much. City of Austin's unlike anywhere else. Chance to compete for this community, simply too compelling to pass up. Some of the finest facilities in all of MLS. Q2 is one of the great venues in North American soccer. Anthony Precourt, once again, sidebar. Anthony Precourt knew what he was doing. A lot of people yelled at Anthony Precourt when he was leaving Columbus, but he had in the agreement to maintain, I have Austin, Texas. Q2 was built, and the only thing that I have an issue with in Austin when it comes to their fever for the sport is that Q2 for me is too small. It is too small. It's low 20s, if I remember correctly. I can look it up here in a second. But it's low 20s when it comes to capacity. When Austin is doing well, and when you have international events, that's great. Place is packed, no worries. When they're not doing well, the stadium, let's say, it has empty seats. And you've seen that with Austin at Q2 of the last couple of years. But I think from a larger venue perspective, I think it's too small. And I honestly do not know where you can expand Q2 Stadium because it is condensed and is jammed into a space where press box side, if you decide to go up and out, you're going out over the property line and you're knocking yourself into a business park. In the south end zone, it is parking. You could probably do it there, but you'd have to, once again, all of this is contingent upon peeling that roof off. You could probably add another layer in the supporter section. And if you wanted to do a 200 level, but you're going into the VIP parking area, there's like a small parking lot in that end zone. And that would have to be sacrificed. You might be able to do something if you're watching it. If you've ever seen a game on television from Q2, you might be able to do something on the end zone to your left because that has been vacant. That's like vacant green space and park space and wandering space for folks. The stands that you are staring at across the way, you might be able to get something done, but you're once again dealing with property and space and all that kind of stuff. Q2 for me is too small. Q2 for me is too small. But Anthony Precourt knew what he was doing when he put Austin, Texas into his oh, by the way, when he signed the agreement in Columbus. Curtin continued to walk out in front of the supporters in that atmosphere. It's a privilege I don't take lightly. Passion of Austin FC faithful, known across the league. Our goal be to give you a team that fights and makes you proud every time we take the field, end quote. That was part of what Jim Curtin said. Here is more of what Jim Curtin said about Austin, Texas as a club, about Austin FC as a club. And this is from the press conference yesterday. Jim Curtin talked for 52 minutes about Austin FC. So here's part of that conversation.
I have had a good track record of finding unique ways to maybe punch above our weight in Philly. Again, you don't have to spend the most. I think you have to spend smart, though, in this league, in a salary capped league. So there's certainly things that through analytics and data and the support of Peak Six, which we have with our owners, Matt and Jenny, which is an incredible resource to have. We will lean heavily into that. It eliminates those errors. It can help in recruitment. It can really pinpoint, where the weaknesses of the opponent are. So again, all those things will be utilized to try to put the best roster together for Austin FC. We will leave no stone unturned. I don't do things perfectly, but I will admit when I make a mistake, and I'll put my hand up, and I'll be willing to move on from certain things and try to improve and do what's best for Austin. So I take a lot of that ownership on. There's little things and very quickly at the data that I value, and that maybe is different data. We're going to have Austin FC data that matters most, right? We don't want to be LAFC. We don't want to be Montreal. We don't want to be Miami. We're going to be Austin FC, and the data will be unique to our players. So you guys will learn what an Austin FC player looks like, right? Very quickly over time. And once we get that kind of all dialed in, guys, the team starts to pick itself. Recruitment becomes easier, and everyone feels an ownership and a part of it. And like I said, you don't need to go with exorbitant transfer fees. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to be now with an ownership group that spends middle to top third. That's unique to me. That will be unique. It's the first time I've experienced that. So that excites me, no doubt.
Jim Curtin, the 2027 head coach in Austin. Obviously, we'll discuss this with, with Dylan coming up in just a little bit and get his thoughts on the incoming. See, because if you're there in the interim, it's pro tempore. You're the pro tem head coach. You're the interim. What is it if you're the incoming? There's got to be a Latin term that I can't think of off the top of my head. If you're the incoming coach for a particular entity or whatever. So, like I said, there's a Latin term in there somewhere that I can't think of off the top of my head. But Tommy Scoop said yesterday, and like I said, we'll get into this with Dylan too, and probably lead off with this in about 5 minutes. Jim Curtin will be a part of the process to name the sporting director. You also heard in that soundbite from Jim Curtin where they're going to be very analytics driven. And I'm going to have to find out more about Peak Six. We all might have to. But he is going to go with his Peak Six analytics breakdown and sit there, and that'll be how they build in Austin. But what you have seen, and we'll probably talk to Nico Moreno about this tomorrow as well. What you've seen in Austin over the last handful of seasons under Borrell as the sporting director and Wolf/Estevez as head coaches, that there was money spent on DPs and you got very little return for what you were investing in. When you wanted to bring in Brandon Vasquez, U.S. Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez, that is more injury-based. But then you bring in Bukhari and you bring in the other DPs that you've brought in, and the rate of return has not been there. So what I'm anticipating now is an idea from Jim Curtin, the soon-to-be head coach, and going to be a part of the collective process in gathering who the sporting director is going to be. You know, what are you going to be doing financially to bring in these individuals where you're going to be smarter? Because your GAM coming into the regular season wasn't a whole lot. You had 412,000 plus in GAM available to you going into the season. And so obviously to make some moves, you're going to have to move some freight. Coming into the year, you brought in Uzuni, you brought in Bukhari, and Bukhari was sold on to the Polish league. I believe it was Wiedź Łódź. and then you bring in Facundo Torres. So your DP situation in Austin, Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez through 28 with an option year for 29. Mirto Uzuni, who was signed through 27, option year 28. Facundo Torres brought in back into Major League Soccer, contract through 29-30, option years 30 and 31. You had your three U22s, Djordjevic, Dursarski, and Owen Wolf. You figured that's going to be a good rate of return there. And only two TAM players, Danny Pereira, Joseph Rosales, and they're under contract through 27, 28, 28, 29, respectively, with option years behind. This year, you will have decisions on Brendan Hines-Ike, Jean Kolmanic with an option year, Sabovic with an option year. Ilie Sanchez with an option year after this season. Brad Stuver with 2 option years after this year. Robert Taylor with an option year after this year. Then you get into a bunch of 27s and so on. Supplemental roster, 3 27s. Riley Thomas with an option year. Irvin Torres with an option year in 28. So literally you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players with contracts that have option decisions. Well, 5 of them with option decisions after this season. Brendan Hines-Ike is a straight-up contract renewal at this season. So we'll find out what the deal is. But the GAM that was available to you with this roster, because once again, remember, you invested in Osman Bukhari and Mirto Uzuni and Brandon Vasquez, and you brought in Facundo Torres after you sold Bukhari. It's a lot of investment, not a lot of return. $412,000 in GAM left available. That's not a lot. So you got to figure out what you want to do. Player sales will help out in that. Does that mean that someone like Mirto Uzuni is on the clock to be combined with the analytics that Jim Curtin wants to do to bring players in to be a part of the new Austin FC? Jim Curtin looking like a librarian normally. Could you imagine him with his normal look on the sidelines wearing a 10-gallon hat now? Has his long coat, has the big long coat. Like he just, came in from riding the range. You see the open happen. It's like you come into the de facto office space, and he's got the leather long coat, and he's got the 10-gallon hat. Still looks like a librarian with the glasses and the look and everything. Graham Potter, by the way, if you missed it, you can go to the Sweden national team Twitter account, and he has embraced, and the team has definitely embraced the idea of their practices in the state of Texas. Graham Potter came out wearing a 10-gallon hat, and he was sporting it pretty solid. But now I'm just wondering if Jim Curtin will be doing the same thing. So librarian dressed as a Texan, we get to see that. But there's interesting decisions that have to be made. Jim Curtin being one of them to help bring in a sporting director. Like I said, this is reversed. This is reversed. What is Jim Curtin? What is Jim Curtin looking for in a sporting director? It's not necessarily a question I would have thought I would have had to phrase that way. And wrote, yes, interesting patience to have him hang around on the perimeter for the rest of the season. And like I said, I think that what it might end up being is that you're going to have Jim Curtin in one of two places. You're going to have him either sitting in the 200 level Q2 with a notepad, no one sitting in front of him. You sit there and you have your knees kind of up against the your knees are up against the seat in front of you, so it's kind of, well, I can't quite do it because the table's too high. But, like when there's always that empty seat in front of you when you're at an arena or a game or anything, and you put your feet up on that seat that's in front of you. I just have this vision of Curtin putting his feet up. Actually, I can do it with my sneakers. I just won't be wearing them. But yeah, traditionally, you put your feet up on the seat in front of you, and you just you're taking notes, and the legal pad's like up against you. That could be Jim Curtin at Q2 after the World Cup. He could be in the 200 level with a notepad up against his knees, writing down ideas about what he's thinking. It's like a check mark here, X here, check mark here, X here. Or he could be in the press box and they give him his own booth. The incoming head coach has his own booth, and you get the cutaways at about the over under 2.5 in your cutaways of Jim Curtin at Q2 taking notes. However, he's taking notes. I don't anticipate Jim Curtin being a guy taking notes and he's banging into a keyboard. I always anticipate Jim Curtin being the kind of guy that's going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to write stuff down. Let's see how Dylan Butler pictures Jim Curtin when it comes to the idea of Jim Curtin now being the major domo in Austin. Happy Wall Pass Wednesday, sir.
Yeah, same, buddy.
Jim Curtin, Austin FC. I didn't have this one on the bingo card. Did you?
Not necessarily, but I also didn't have Jim Curtin not having a job, not having another coaching job this long either. So figured somebody would scoop him up at some point. Good for Austin to do so. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for Curtin to prove that, or to prove his coaching chops, right? Like that he's not just a product of a system, that, he can coach, in multiple systems. So I think good job by Austin. I didn't necessarily, I have, it's funny, like when there's coaching hires, and I think it's more so, overseas, maybe in England or somewhere else, someone will get fired and then it's like, who are the likely candidates? And there's like a whole list of candidates, and Big Sam ultimately is like somewhere on that.
He's already sitting in his CV. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he's like 4th or 5th on like every coaching list of possibilities of who's next. We don't see that as much in MLS. So yeah, because some teams have that philosophy of, we want someone like NYCFC, for example. They want someone usually within the City Football Group family, right?
I understand that completely. Yeah.
Similar with Red Bull, I think. So yeah, we didn't know necessarily what to expect with Austin. So I think that's well done. I'm happy to see Jim back in the coaching ranks in this league.
Well, and it's interesting where, if you take what Tom Bogert said yesterday when it was going to be announced, and then Jim Curtin had the press conference and such, that this is inverted, where traditionally you have sporting director named.
Right.
Sporting director then consults with the powers that are. They go into the hermetically sealed conference room with all the glass windows and the big back chairs and all the monitors and everything, and then they consult their PowerPoint presentations and go, that guy. This is Jim Curtin first, then it's sporting director, and Jim Curtin is going to be having input on who the sporting director is. This is inverted here. This is going to be interesting. This is the Bill Parcellsian approach almost when it comes to doing things.
Yeah, because you're right. Usually you get your sporting director in, and then that's kind of who makes the final say on the head coach, not vice versa. So, right. Definitely a unique way to go about it, especially if you're not, the other way to do it is you just do the 2 titles, which we've spoken before. I'm not a fan of that, because I think ultimately I think that, well, one, I think that we're seeing less and less of that for a reason, because you're not giving 100% to one of those jobs. So you do, I think, in today's world with the scouting and kind of how, much bigger MLS is becoming, I think you need to have 2 people do those jobs. But so yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one. You would Yeah. Hey, what do they say about Austin? Austin is weird, right? So
yeah, keep Austin weird. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is definitely a way to keep Austin weird. And now what?
But I think too. Sorry, not to cut you off, John. I think too. Like when you look at some of the vacancies, if you will, and if you're including interim coaches within those vacancies,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's as many landing spots as maybe we thought there would be, right? Like it seems like maybe Columbus is gonna stick with their head coach, right?
Courtois,
I think it's a better spot to go if I'm Curtin than to Montreal.
Oh. That's another topic we're gonna get to in a second.
I mean, what are some of the other?
Portland, Stumptown Footy said that Portland interviewed Curtin. I don't know whether Jim Curtin was like nah, or Portland was nah. But do you go back down? Do you go that road? And I know that one of the reasons that Jim Curtin did not immediately jump back into the coaching game was because of kids and coming of age and going to next level schooling and all that kind of stuff, and he wanted to kind of hang tight. I don't know.
Yeah, I was surprised going back. I mean, I get the Michael Bradley decision, and he's a club legend, and in a way you also keep that in the family. But I was surprised. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if he interviewed or not, but a little bit surprised that Curtin didn't end up with Red Bull, because that ticks off a lot of those boxes of staying local and close to home and not too far and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, and philosophically, from what we've known from Curtin with his time in Philly, it's somewhat Curtin adjacent, what Red Bull want to do. So it's the same church. It might be like Anglican versus Episcopalian, but it's the same kind of idea that you would have had with Red Bull and Curtin. And before you came on, I was just trying to figure out, okay, I have this vision now, Jim Curtin, the rest of the year at Q2. He's either going to be in the 200 level with a notepad and his knees bracing the notepad and he's taking notes, or he's going to be in his own booth at Q2 taking notes. That would kind of unnerve me if I'm the interim and I'm going, I know that I'm a part of the academy and I know the younger kids and all that kind of stuff, but having a dude looking over my shoulder who's going to be the incoming head coach and is going to have say in the sporting directorship. It's like dude's taking notes over my shoulder here. I'm going to be unnerved for the rest of the season if I'm the coaching staff in Austin. Like I said, that's just me, but that kind of weirded me out.
Or if you flip that, you could be like, you know what? If I do a good job, maybe he gets me on the staff.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like you can, like you're almost kind of auditioning for a spot there as well.
True. And so, like I said, it's just you wanted to keep Austin weird. You got to keep an Austin weird. Oh, who's the mug today?
It's a little Yankee.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The coffee wins. There you go. It's just that Jim Curtin is now going to, apparently he mentioned, we had a soundbite in hour number 1 where he's talking about analytics and Peak 6. And we've seen Anthony Precourt invest. They have not been shy in recent years about bringing in high-priced talent in the DP slots. The DP slots have not been turning over the way that they would have liked, either injury or just ineffectiveness. And now it seems like with Curtin and his analytics bent, you might be going back the other way, where you're going to be moneyballing your way through this. I think that if I'm interpreting this correctly, it wouldn't be surprised if you're looking to moneyball your way now with Curtin and Peak 6 and analytics and all this kind of stuff for 27 and beyond. That's just my early vibe.
Well, I mean, and then to that point, you've got a guy, right, who's familiar with that, but also who has, kind of excelled in that and getting those, bargain basement yard sale guys to perform well in MLS. And then also, if that's the philosophy, then it's going to be interesting to see who the sporting director is then, right? Like,
yeah,
you would think it would be someone who also has that kind of a background, who, does well with those type of situations.
And also you have the academy, and this has been a hue and cry from a lot of folks where Austin FC is concerned, where Los Verdos, they are doing very well in MLS Next Pro, but there seems to be this ceiling for whatever reason with the duration, whether it was Gustavo Borrell or whomever. It's like, yeah, we've got all this talent down on the farm, but we're not calling them up. And so they hit their head on the ceiling in MLS Next Pro. They seem to be ready for MLS, but for whatever reason, probably parentheses, the investments that you're making in your DPs, you're not getting those folks up. This might be that opportunity to open the door for Los Verdos and for Austin FC2 to actually make the impact that I think a lot of folks were looking for from the beginning. But Curtin got to see that with Philadelphia Union 2 in MLS Next Pro because of all the young guys that came up through the Union system that worked out to fit those puzzle pieces there. So am I putting one and one together in here and coming up with 6, or am I close?
No, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. It's I think you're going down the right path there. And again, with who you pick as your head coach, right? So, if, and in like an LA Galaxy also comes to mind, where they were a team for so many years, such a rich, fertile academy, and those players, for whatever reason, weren't coming up through. Well, I mean, the reason is because they did spend, big bucks on their DPs. So, it makes more sense that Curtin is that guy to lead them in this kind of change of direction, change of philosophy that they're seemingly going through.
Change of philosophy. So yeah, and I can't, like I said, I can't wait to see him. And as Rope says, moleskin in hand with the long jacket, the long leather long coat, and the 10-gallon hat, and still looking like a librarian. Trying to sort.
By the way, not bargain basement, although maybe considering the previous prices, your buy-in tonight, if you want to walk into Madison Square Garden, is about $3,700.
Whoa, yeah, that's a not happening. That's
down from about $7,600 for Game 3.
$7,600 for Game 3,
just to walk in, sit upstairs.
Wow, that's insane. Not surprising, but that's it. But that is insane. Although it's not surprising. Our buddy Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com, hanging out with us and discussing.
How about DJ Khaled, by the way? Like, what's up? Like, first of all, I don't know how much. Obviously, super invested in the Knicks and watching them here, but they're always showing Celebrity Row. And listen, props to those Ben Stiller, Tracy Morgan. Like, these are real fans, right? Like Fat Joe, real fan. Like, these are guys thick and thin. They've been there. They're going on the road. They're watching this team. And then you've got, you see it a little bit different there once it's the finals. As you know, I'm a big Yankee fan. Derek Jeter was one of my favorites, but all of a sudden, Derek Jeter doesn't really go to a lot of Knicks games. Just happens to show up.
I know.
Sit next to Eli Manning, like, and then it's Robert Kraft is sitting there. Like, the front row got really weird in Game 3. But next to, that connection, I don't know. That I don't get.
Is it like, hey, James, get me some tickets? James Dolan, I want to, hey, owner,
I don't know.
Owner to owner. Hey,
I mean, the owner's box was filled, so perhaps Kraft went to get a different seat. And then there's DJ Khaled, who's sitting next to Fat Joe, and the entire game, and because you can see, you're seeing courtside, and Fat Joe invested in every play, every call, complaining about Wemby, complaining about whatever it is. Khaled is glued to his phone.
I mean,
Like though now courtside seats, and again, just checking out of curiosity, they were going like if you wanted your feet on the hardwood, that was going to cost you $133,000.
Nope. The word I'm looking for is nope.
And he's not even watching the game.
Nope. That literally no. That no. $133,000. That's like a third of a house or a quarter of a house in some sections of this planet. And somebody's going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to drop 133 large on sitting on the floor at Madison Square Garden to see Wemby against the Knicks. No.
Yep.
No.
By the way, I'm going to bring a little soccer. I'm going to bring this around a little bit. This is a cool little thing for you. So, Julian Champagny, right, for the Spurs, big 3-point shooter, Brooklyn guy, went to Bishop Loughlin, St.
There
John's.
you go. Nicely done.
Hang on, not even. So, his dad and I were really good friends at St. John's. He was on the soccer team that won the 1996 national championship.
Wow.
Yeah, just a Jamaican dude, like, and he wasn't even that tall. Like, he was maybe 6'2", 6'3", if that. Probably not even that tall. You know, he would come in, kind of sub in, you know, bring in some energy, and like Ranford Champagny was his name. Well, still is his name. He's still around. But we just called him Penny. But so cool to see, you know, his kid. That's one of my 2 NBA dad connections. The other one is RJ Barrett, formerly of the Knicks. I was friends with his dad, Rowan, who was on the men's basketball team as well.
Man, that's some good. See now, and this is where we bring in our boy Paul Harvey.
Now you know the rest of the story.
There you go. That's our man Dylan Butler, and who's far more plugged into the NBA than I ever was. So Jim Curtin's in, and like I said, this is I really want to know what he's looking for in a sporting director. I really do, and I mean, it's like I don't know how big this list is. I don't know if he's got like a dude and that's it. Now here's my guy, and this is literally this is going to be, you know, it's hell or high water or we're done. But I mean, I think Austin is going for a financial course correction and hopefully trying to move things in MLS Next Pro. And like I said, that's my gut anyway. That's what I think is going to happen. And you know, we'll see what it looks like. I don't know if you know this, but there's this tournament that's going to be starting in a couple days. A lot of folks are involved. A couple of countries that we're familiar with, and it's going to be kind of busy. And it might even rival getting into Madison Square Garden for game number 4 in some location.
Well, like I said, game 4 tonight, it's not as expensive. Game 6.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, game 6 in Vegas, game 7 in Carolina. I'm really looking for.
Let me ask you this. What is your biggest fandom?
Oh, my biggest fandom? Wow.
Yeah, like who do you
see? But I mean, I love.
Like, are you a Hawks guy?
No. I am. For me, it is Angels, Clippers, Kings, Chargers, because I was born in Southern California. And I want Artie Moreno gone like 5 years ago as the owner of the Angels. There's a great piece, it's a deep dive in The Athletic about how bad things are.
So it might be a tough one to ask for you because you're not going to see those teams. Like, you wouldn't get those season tickets.
I would not, but I would probably go see the Kings if they were playing in Nashville, maybe.
For sure, yeah. So here's a question for you. So you've got you're a big Knicks fan. You have season tickets.
I'm a big Knicks fan. I got season tickets.
Would you have sold your seats for that game 3 of the series, first home game of first NBA Finals at the Garden since '99, would you have sold those seats or would you have gone? Like, would you be hardcore enough of a fan to be like, I'm not missing this moment, or are you like, this is a good time to cash
I got
in?
game 4 tickets. I'll sell my game 3s.
You do. You're right, and I think the same way.
It's like, no, it's like game 4 staring at me right there. I'm good to go. I mean, if I'm really confident in my fandom, I would probably sell 3 and 4 and come in for 6 because it's 2-1-1-1, right? Or is it 2-3-2?
Well, you could, because you won the first 2, and I think the moment that once you lose game 3, you realize that game 4 cannot be a clinching
Right.
game. But the other side of your thought is, so let's say you also sell 4, but they win 4 and they win 5. You didn't see your team play in the NBA
Then
Finals.
what I do is I frame that ticket in the
game 6 ticket?
game 6 ticket. I frame it.
Yeah.
And it is encased in plastic, and it's like the hard acrylic that you can't snap or anything. And I weld that thing shut, and I hang it in my office. I hang my
and you probably just made 30 grand out of it.
Yeah.
If
So
not
I'm
more.
I'm hanging my game 6 ticket, and in the acrylic, I'm putting it in the office. I'm putting it like right behind me. And I mean, look, that I did the same thing somewhere in my stacks. No lie. I have outfield seats from the Big O for the last home game that they had before Montreal moved to Washington, D.C. I bought like a row of outfield seats, and they were like $6 a piece. And so I bought like a row of outfield seats at the Big O for the team finale before they moved to Washington. And I will say this. When I went to go see a game at the Big O, I was doing a story on Michael Barrett at the time. And it is the only place I've ever been when I covered a game where folks were smoking indoors. I took a lap. I took a lap because all I was doing was shoot game with Michael and everything. I went up there, and so I'm literally taking a lap during the game. And I go to the way that the Big O is structured is, and that's the other thing, Garber and CF Montreal, since I'm there, we'll talk about that in a sec. You go to the Big O in its old incarnation, and you had the outfield seats. You had those 4 sections that were out there in the outfield, and then you had the rampway to get you back out into the concourse. The folks were smoking literally up against those sections and right up against the edge of concourse. They were lighting up, man. I mean, literally, you go walking through that section you go through that out, and you just see people just kind of, they're they're kicked back. They're just doing this, they're just doing this right up against the edge of the outfield sections indoors at the Big O. Literally, that's what they're doing. They're just doing this, and they're smoking, and people didn't care. Did not care one bit. I, however, had to wash my clothes because all of the smoke stench that went in. Last couple of days, we've been talking about the visit that Don Garber had to Montreal. And he got the tour of the Big O 2.0 and the big dig that's going on right now. They've shaved the top of it off, and they're turning it into like something of an angle, and it's going to be like a glass top, and they're investing, I think, $800 million in this renovation, and cranes are in the air, and I think they finally have pulled away the broken parachute and the broken cover that was there to cover the hole, that they couldn't get the hydraulics to work either to extend the cover or to pull the cover back, and so they just were like, F it. Right now, it's an $800 million investment. Don Garber got the visit. He's got the hard hat photo to prove it, and he's basically telling the provincial government, get it done, because apparently there have been allowances made for CF Montreal, especially with the season flip and everything, for I think the first go round of 27 sprint and 27-28. But after that, all bets are off. And so he's trying to encourage the provincial government in Quebec province to get it done So CF Montreal can stay, and there is a fear in Quebec province that CF Montreal may not be around if the provincial government doesn't boogie, and they've got to do stuff because they've got a big they got a big vacation coming up, and they got to move on this financing pretty quick. Interesting times in Montreal.
So what is the reconstruction of the Big O? Like, what is the plan for it? Because when you were mentioning it, and you know, I knew that he went up there. I didn't follow this as closely, but when you were talking about the renovations, my thought was, is that now perhaps the permanent home for? I mean, it's right next door to Stade Saputo. Stade Saputo is tiny in comparison to many MLS stadiums. It's only the one level.
It's like 18.
Could that be their permanent?
I think that's
home
what they're
then?
aiming for, because of the idea of not wanting to lose. You know, when you go into the schedule and you flip to the metric calendar, since we're the standard calendar. If you want to flip to, you want to say we're flipping to metric and being with everybody else, that you don't want to have 3 months on the board where you're losing time and you're on the road, and you want to have stuff in your barn, in your part of the planet, and you're not on the road so much, and you integrate. And so I think that that's kind of what you're looking at here is, I think that Joey would be moving into the Big O as the primary tenant, and Stade Saputo would be a very nice footnote in one of the end zones of the Big O 2.0. Hey, if Laval wants to go play, they got a place to play now. You know, whatever. You know,
sure.
You know, one of those kinds of things. I think that from what I understand, they would be the primary tenant in the new Big O 2.0. Glass top, the tower would still be there. You'd still see the tower. You'd still get the beauty shot looking up through the glass and everything. But the Big O would be the primary tenant would be CF Montreal in that case, and then Joey would get to a bigger barn and have more revenue options, I guess, than he currently does now, where I think it's like 18,000. I think it's Stade Saputo. So that's the vibe I get from everything that I've heard.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. So what else is on your plate, sir? Are you being a dad right now? Are you just kind of dadding your way into the World Cup?
I guess so.
Are you getting time off? Are you the high schooling is the high school stuff is out?
Largely over. I have like one more kind of a showcase event at the end of June, like it's actually the same day as what is it? USA, the third match.
Group
stage.
The group stage match.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
So no, it's quieter, which is good, certainly, but still MLSing. Quick thought, since I'm about to exit the door here. I think prediction-wise, host-wise, right? The three hosts.
Sure.
I think Mexico, USA will win their groups.
Okay.
And I think Canada will go through, but not as the group winner.
That's they could be one, they could be two, they could be three. I think the gut says that they're probably going to be three and get through on points. They'll get their 4 points. They'll get in.
Which is unfortunate for them, because obviously if they somehow won their group, you know, they would stay in Canada, in Vancouver, I think it is, right? For the round of 32 and even the round of 16. So, but I don't see that happening.
I think they're going to be on the road. So then when we get to come back together and talk next week, the U.S. will have had one match played, I think one match, and then getting ready for a second.
Paraguay Friday, right?
Paraguay on Friday. And so we'll start things there, and we'll discuss all things the soccer. Great to see you, my friend. And it's always great to chew things up on a World Pass Wednesday, where God knows where it's going to go. But yes, I would sell my Game 3 Knicks ticket and pay some bills, and maybe even my Game 4 and frame my Game 6 if it's done in 5, even though I don't.
You probably just paid for and have an upgrade if you want for next year's season tickets if you sold that one game.
Good. I'm good. I'm good with my seats.
15 G's.
I'm good right now with my seats. Be safe, my friend, and enjoy the time as the dad before you have your showcase. And is the showcase on Varsity Media or where is it? Okay.
Yes. We have time for that. I think, like I said, it's June 20th.
Yeah, good time to figure it out. So you'll be back here on the 17th, and we'll talk about stuff. All right, sir. Dylan Butler, it's always great to see Dylan and find out what in the wide world of sports is going on with him as he takes his sip from his Yankee mug. And now that means that we are in the final half hour of the show. And going back and forth with this individual about everything that has been going on, specifically with the women's team and their field trip. I wonder what that process was like. You know, it's you have Fallon Tull's choice. Emma Hayes is handing out field trip sheets. We need to have your parents sign this. This needs to come back to me. Emma Hayes hands out these sheets. Wait a second here. Rose, your parents didn't sign this yet. I still don't have Rose Lavelle's permission slip, all that kind of stuff. Go to Brazil, 2 roadies, and all hell breaks loose. And, oh, yeah, we were talking about it last night as we were getting gassed in. So it's time to bring in Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod. Bart was feverishly looking at notes and try to get things away. And, oh, my God almighty. Oh, my God, who is here? Can you believe this? Oh, my God.
Entering the pitch without a referee's approval. Sorry, it's a yellow card, Jarrett.
Wow. Jarrett hops
There's
in
a certain art form. There's a certain
That-
art form in
That's
showing
the
up and
second
getting
yellow
a yellow
card for
card.
talking to me. That's a red card.
Bart, I'm impressed you got here so quickly after officiating the game in Bill last night.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Woo, that was chaos, man.
Oh,
That was beautiful.
God.
Hey, you know what? If Emma wanted them to have some more some bitch in them, that's a good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she wanted them to be tougher. Well, it's either get tough eye.
Yeah, that's a word to use. But I went over the card distribution from the misconduct summary as it was phrased by U.S. Soccer. I'm gonna do this again. Rose Lavelle, caution, 17th minute. Gio Garbellini, caution, 23rd minute. I think Jarrett froze, so he's coming back.
He did.
He's
struggling this morning.
No, it's this. I think sometimes it depends on the server that you're on, and the web service. So just do not be surprised if you dump and like that. So yeah, so Jarrett gets the first one in, and then it disappears from here. So that's kind of where we go with that. So Gio Garbellini, 23rd. Arthur Elias, 37th, caution. Zanerato, caution, 43rd. Lindsay Heaps, caution, 43rd. I imagine that was because of a coming together. Moranja gets a caution in the 48th. Elias a caution in the 78th, which is his second caution, which means goodbye. So second yellow goes to a red. Then you have bench ejections in the 78th minute, 2 of them. Then you have Claire Hutton with a caution in the 82nd. Another bench ejection from Brazil in the 89th. Caroline gets a caution at 90+1. Zanerato gets a second caution at 90+4, which means yellow card, red card. Bart has both this morning. Claudia Dickey, caution 90+5. Emma Sears, caution 90+8. Tarcian, ejection 90+9, straight red. Marta, caution 90+9. Caroline, ejection 90+14. Ludmila, ejection at 90+14.
Mm-hmm.
What in the blue hell happened last night in Fortaleza?
That's a great question, John. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware that before the match started, as the teams walked out, right before we got to the anthems, the crowd in Brazil hoisted a nice card stunt that said "Jogo Bonito," which, if you're not familiar with the Portuguese/Brazilian really saying, it means beautiful game, play beautiful. 2 of those right? That's what it means. There was a whole campaign about this in the early 2000s that inspired everyone to buy a certain type of soccer shoe when I was playing.
Yes.
Joga Bonito. And then we started playing soccer, and there was no Joga Bonito. Joga Fei, I think, was the term I learned to say ugly play.
Yeah.
John, I think it's fair to say that while... Okay, I'm going to try to be politically correct before I jump into the rivalry induce, because...
And then let me know if we need to go with the E rating to be able to pick it up by the
No, I don't think we're going to get into that, because unless you count, there's going to be an S housing at some point in here, but that's normal soccer parlance.
Yeah.
So my politically correct answer is, I think the referee did not do a good job of controlling this match in the first half. We saw this in the first friendly where the referee, maybe even saying controlling the match is, you can't say they lost control when they never tried to control it. I think that's where I stood on both of these matches and the officiating.
Right.
But specifically in this first half, the referee looked very out of her depth. I think it's a little crazy to invite someone from Spain, where they only have one good soccer team, to come and referee two powerhouses who genuinely do not like each other. I mean, I think this is another thing that is a layer to this that no one on US Soccer, WOSO Twitter or US Soccer Twitter wants to admit. We don't like Brazil. Brazil hates us. There's some bad blood between these two teams, and has been for a good while. And so it did appear to me in the first half that the referee did not have any sort of desire to really control this game. And that was made pretty clear to me by Garbellini not getting a second yellow card in about the 42nd minute for a very clear stopping a promising attack foul, something that the U.S. had got a yellow card for earlier that half. I want to say even twice, maybe. She pulls a U.S. attacking player back in a very promising attacking situation. That's a pretty standard, you get a yellow card for that, especially in the way that the foul was done, where she takes her arm, reaches over, pulls her shoulder back. And the referee doesn't do even any sort of conversating with the player. She doesn't say anything to the player, say, hey, be careful, you've got a yellow card, you should know better. There was none of that. She just said, oh, we got a foul.
All right.
And that was kind of the signal to me that this referee was not up to the task. Now, she came out in the second half, and I think she overcorrected, which is the danger here of not controlling the match.
Right.
And Brazil was on the bad end of that, because Brazil, what bothers me about Brazil and the way they play, and Julie Foudy mentioned this on the broadcast last night. You're telling me these players aren't gifted and talented, and I mean, beautifully talented. These players are some of the most technically astute players in the world. And yet you're out here trying to just kick the crap out of players and push and shove and elbow and not focus on playing soccer. At halftime last night, John, I have to go look at the screenshot, so you'll have to excuse me.
No worries.
Yes. Okay. 95 total passes the U.S. completed, 73 for Brazil. Both teams under 50% passing accuracy in the first half. That is a very... Look, I'm not a stats guy in the way that like some of these people are, but that's a stat that indicates soccer was not being played.
Okay.
And if Brazil is going to do that, but be mad when referees call them on it, then that's on you, because that's what happened in the second half. Is that, yes, I agree, the U.S. was giving it out just as much as Brazil was, but as soon as they got called on it, they said, all right, fine, and they retreated. What did Brazil do every single time there was any sort of infraction that they got called for? Everything was an argument. And that's where the referee is going to... Most of these yellow cards or red cards especially were for that line of misconduct. We did have a red card that was the result of an on-field... I think that one was probably for violent conduct at the end with the elbow to Sophia Wilson's face.
Yeah, that was straight up.
But most of these were, was dissent, right? Most of these were dissent or even second yellow cards, because when the referee tried to control the match, and you do so by giving out yellow cards, you can't continue to do the thing you got a yellow card for. And again, that's what the U.S. understood. Okay, I got caught. Cool. All right, I know where my limit is.
Mhm.
And to me, that was the difference in this match, was the U.S. learned from the first match that you're going to have to get dirty. But, you know, there was an understanding of, yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay, yeah, you caught me. You know, it's the, I don't know, John, if your wife has any rules about what you can and can't eat at home, and probably has like, hey, John, you can't have your 4th Mountain Dew of the day. I don't know if that's what the boss hands down on you, but
she does.
So when you go get your 4th Mountain Dew of the day, and she says, John,
Mhm.
and you go,
Well, I do it. When,
I know.
I do it when she's not home. That way, she's not looking.
But you know you're doing something that you shouldn't be.
But I needed the Mountain Dew with my 4th one.
But you know you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and you know that if you do get caught, you go, yeah.
Damn it.
That was the U.S. They go, okay, yeah, you caught me. Brazil was the opposite. Anytime they got called out for it, it was like you have told them that their entire life is a scam, a lie. Their parents don't love them. They're adopted. And it really was distressing to see. And it was a painful watch, to be quite honest. This was a very bad game to watch. Both games kind of were. You know, and I think it's indicative that the fact that the U.S. won on a goal that was a deflected shot, right? I do think the U.S. overall played better soccer and attempted to win. Shout out Lorena also, who had about 5 saves that you go, holy cow, how did she make that happen?
Yeah.
Which made the scoreline look a lot nicer and gave Brazil, you know, the ammunition they now needed to say, well, if we hadn't gotten 72 red cards or however many it was, you know, we wouldn't have lost. I mean, John, they were at the point, okay, in youth soccer, if we have a coach dismissal, a lot of times coaches have an assistant coach or some other club person who's there as well. But sometimes they don't. And so we have to make sure that there is an adult, someone over the age of 18, who is on the sideline to be the responsible person. And they were about ready to have to turn around to someone in the crowd and say, hey, are you 18? Can you just come sit down on the bench so we can have someone here? I mean, that was where we had got to, because the tone was set by the coaching staff.
Yeah. By Elias,
for sure.
yeah.
And we'll talk about that as well. But it just was such a disappointing match against 2 of the best teams in the world.
Right. No doubt. Jared, if you would please chime in. We're trying something here just to see if it functions this way. If you would please, sir, engage. Unless, of course, it froze there too. Wow. It didn't even work there. That was a thought. Damn it. All right. That was a thought. So if yeah, exactly.
Red card to the system today.
That is crazy. All right. So I don't know. It might be with Jared. There he is.
It might kick me again. God only knows.
Well, hang on. So here, let me do that. So I'm hiding the camera.
Okay.
And now your audio up. So go for it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Look, the U.S. wanted to learn how to play ugly. Like that's the way to do it. Like you can't win every game with style points, and you wanted to go down to Brazil and get uglied up a bit. You did. Wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't always honorable, but I think after watching the last World Cup and then knowing you have another one coming, and then some of the friendlies you've had, as the world starts to improve and get better around you, and at times play beautiful games while you're sitting at home thinking about, well, I could do that. Well, you're not, because you're sitting at home because you lost. You ain't going to win every game the same way that you want. And sometimes you're going to have to win ugly. And sometimes you're going to have to take that rule book and show that it bends a bit. Getting stuck in, getting on an orange card or 2 if you have to, getting a mass confrontation, getting under somebody's skin. Also, it feels very destined, Bart, that the U.S. and Brazil will have to play in a knockout round next year after this.
Right. It's like this feels like it'll somehow be a semifinal or quarterfinal, similar to the U.S. France in 2019.
It does.
I walk away for 15 seconds and it all just goes to poot. All right. That was a thought. Anyway, so it was a thought with Jarrett. Hi, Bart. I'm back. Yeah, so I don't know.
I thought it was mine, but I guess it wasn't.
No, it's Jarrett. But I'm trying to figure out the dynamics of why things are not working as they should. But anyway, yeah, okay, all right. So
I blame War Damn Eagle doing swag surf with the Argentinians and it looking somewhat cool.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know if the Argentinians deserve swag surf.
Well, no, but it was an education. So, all right. So, continue with your point, by the way, before you were so
cultural education. Yes.
So, I mean, it was when you ended
up.
No, I go for it. Yeah.
I want to agree with Jarrett, though. I think a lot of what the U.S. lost in the 2023 cycle was the grit and the fight that we didn't always see because they were just always so good.
Yeah.
Right. And what always made the U.S. teams still very like the best in the world, if not one of the best in the world, was they were still able to fight and be physical against teams. But, you know, what has now turned from a little gnat that was bugging you into a full-blown chihuahua,
careful,
maybe,
yeah,
is where we're at now. I don't, no disrespect, but it's just gotten to a larger annoying animal.
Yes.
A
larger.
No offense to Chihuahua owners.
No, I
but
yeah.
And maybe even Brazil is a corgi nipping at your heels, trying to get you to herd into where you need to go. I mean, they are a formidable opponent.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to need to win this way necessarily against the European teams who don't do this as much.
Right.
But we've seen this against teams like Colombia,
Mm-hmm.
against teams like Mexico, certainly against Brazil, who are very talented soccer teams in this hemisphere,
right,
who understand that if they rough up the U.S. a bit, they will get frustrated. And again, the difference between game 1 and 2 was the U.S. said, okay, well, we'll do it too. And I think that's where Brazil lost their heads a bit, because they were like, well, but they're doing it. And the U.S. is going, okay, yeah, we did it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was, well, and that's the thing. It's you do something to somebody, you do the sternum poke, you know, you're poking them in the sternum. And then sooner or later, they're going to get tired of getting poked in the sternum. They're going to haul off and hit you. And then, you know, it's going to be like, literally, it's like you're going to run to the teacher, run to the principal, and sit there and go, well, they did it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher and the principal is going to sit there and go, well, I know your reputation. You started it, so you're not going to get any sympathy from me. I mean, 28 foul, 20.
Well, to further that, 20 fouls to 8. I'm not saying the U.S. didn't commit only 8 fouls.
No.
But Brazil did commit 20 fouls.
Mm-hmm.
But to further your metaphor, John, at least back when I was in high school,
right,
good old Gwinnett County Public Schools,
there you go.
It didn't matter if you started the fight or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you were involved in a fight, you were going to get suspended.
Yeah.
And so the common phrase was, well, don't start one, but if you get in one, finish it, right? Because you're going to get in trouble out of the way.
Right. And
I think that's what the U.S. kind of learned is, look, you're going to be in a fight. You might as well fight back, because it's not going to benefit you to not fight back.
Mm-hmm.
So Jarrett's completely right. Like, you had to learn how to play this way. I do think that it is a disappointment to see, again, such a talented group of players that Brazil has, because we see them in NWSL, we see them in the Women's Super League, we see them in other leagues around the world be the star technical talent player on their teams.
Yeah.
And then they come to Brazil and they say, okay, well, get out the boxing gloves, girls. And I think that's a little bit of a disservice to not only them, but the game as a whole.
Well, I mean,
but hey, if they're going to bring out boxing gloves, you got to as well.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and this is something that we saw until Carlo Ancelotti came in as head coach on the men's side too. Recently, that incarnation with all of the issues with the Brazilian men's national team, it was not what we're used to seeing. It was ugly. It was grindy. It was not what you would associate with Jogo Bonito. And the men's team was having all of these issues in CONMEBOL and in international competitions. And you're going, where did that go? Now we're seeing that on the women's side, maybe. And I don't know what the tipping point is, but you saw the coaching change where they brought Carlo Ancelotti in. They finally decided on the men's side, yeah, we got to go ahead and we got to push all of our chips to the table. I don't know if this means that along those lines, you've got to sit there and think about Elias and whether or not you want to walk with Elias anymore as your head coach on the women's side, considering you've gone this way, if you want to go back to what everybody knows you for.
Well, I think Brazil, and I'm not going to speak fully on this because I'm not ingrained in that culture, but I do think Brazil has a little bit of an identity crisis from the men's side because they haven't won anything since 2002.
Yeah.
They've done okay in the CONMEBOL competition, sure, but Argentina is the top dog in South America right now. Colombia seems to be ascendant as well, and Brazil seems to be a little unsure of who they want to be right now because Jogo Bonito hasn't worked, especially at the World Cup. I mean, they got embarrassed when they hosted. And for the first time, you saw two European teams in a final, not in Europe. A European team make a final, not in Europe. And that was disappointing for them. Germany winning on your home soil when it should have been you.
Yeah.
That's what they think, right? Embarrassing you on your home soil. So I think on the women's side, you are looking at the fact that they haven't achieved anything outside of, runners up at a couple of those tournaments.
Right.
2007 was probably the height of what we thought of Brazil. They have fully transitioned into a new generation, even though March is still there. There is a new generation of players. They did not have a good 2023 tournament. So yeah, I don't know what they're thinking about who they want to be right now. It's certainly not Jogo Bonito though.
Yeah. What other lessons other than, okay, if you want to get dirty to be the bully on the block, the U.S. can play that way. What other lessons are you carrying from this road trip and the field trip down in Brazil?
Oh, look, the lesson of Sophia Wilson's pretty damn good. I don't know that goal she did score, and this is where the U.S. does have the advantage, and this is why I get to a point why Brazil plays the way they play. The U.S. was trying to connect passes and play soccer a little bit. It wasn't great. They finished the game with, here we go, 196 passes completed.
Whoa.
So not great, right? 47% completion rating.
Wow.
Not good by any stretch. But there was, when they got into the final third, an attempt to play soccer. And I think Sophia Wilson, that ISO goal she scores basically, was kind of the lesson you can take away is say, oh, Emma's trying to get us to play good soccer together, but we still have girls like Sophia Wilson, Trinity Rodman, Mal Swanson, and even behind the bench, Jaden, Lindsay, Rose had a couple of times, and even, especially last night, Emma Sears had a couple of runs that she probably should have done better with.
Yeah.
There is individual talent on this team that can help you rise above when the game is stuck in a quagmire. And that is the lesson I think you truly take from this game is you still got talent. And I think, as we all know in this sport, talent does win out.
I've heard.
Which is why Atlanta United is not very good.
Okay.
But talent wins out. And when you have a Sophia Wilson on the field, when you have a horse of Emma Sears, I mean, that woman is put her in the Kentucky Derby, she's going to win. She is just, good Lord, she's fast, right? And that type of player can help you in a match like this rise above.
Uh-huh.
And that was really my lesson I took away from both of these games. Is individual talent still going to get you really far in this sport.
Yeah, and if you need Lindsay Heaps to back you up in a brawl in the alley, then that won't be an issue.
Listen, last night was an Emily Sonnet game if I ever saw one. She was ready. I mean, everything was ready to fight, and Emily Sonnet's all right, let's fight. Was she up to the task defensively? Iffy sometimes, but her and Lindsay Heaps were ready to go. And yeah, you got to have that too. And I think that's what Emma wanted. If you want a real change from game 1 to 2, that's what Emma wanted, was a bit more, as she said, there's a lot of selfishness on the team.
Yeah.
You got to have that in you. You got to have that dog in you. And
you got to have,
I think a lot of the other players had that. Yeah.
Yes. And so, yes, to paraphrase Jarrett, you got to see the some bitch come out in the women's national team. Men's side. And we got our dose of Rosendo Mendoza last night. And I was like, wait a second, where have I seen him in moments of chaos before? And he was Messi and friends in Philadelphia Union. The game that went off the rail for the last Sunday night before we came into this break. And we saw more of the same, where you wait because Iceland, being Iceland, they don't want the ball. It's got cooties. We're going to try and force turnovers in your defensive third, clinical finishes, blah, 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 blah. It was 2-1 possession, and that's not a surprise. But once again, if you let Iceland be physical early, like you were a couple of challenges, I think Valentin Barco was taken out, and you don't issue cards early, you set a dangerous precedent, and that happened last night here in Auburn. Yeah. And 21 fouls, I think it was 34 fouls total, 21 fouls on Iceland, 6 yellow cards, and it should have been a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Rosendo Mendoza is a guy who often finds himself not rising to the occasion as a referee. I think that's fair to say. Look, I mean, I'm not saying we all do it. There's a reason that there are some referees that get put on finals or big games, and he's just, I don't think, at that level. I get it. Not every referee can. Not every player is. Not every referee is.
Right. Men's side. Fridays when they actually start this whole World Cup thing that we've been talking about.
2 days,
What
John.
is your gut? No, it's crazy. What does your gut tell you about between the sticks? Is it going to be Freeze or Turner?
My gut. Okay. Do you want my gut or my? I'll give you both, because I'll give you my gut and my head. Yes. My gut.
Yes.
Says it should be Matt Turner.
Mm-hmm.
My head says it'll be Matt Freeze, because that is who Pochettino has preferred. I do think it says something that he started the final match, and when you looked at the lineup for the Germany match, it did seem a lot more like this is probably going to be your starting 11. And I know Pochettino hates the idea of possibly naming a starting 11 and having guys know that they're the first choice guy. I know we can't possibly have that. But it did feel like that lineup that we saw, minus 1 or 2 changes maybe, is probably going to be the 11 we'll see Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
There you go.
So to that, it'll probably be Matt Freeze. But I think, and this has been a theme that my friend on the show, Thomas, who is also a keeper, has always said, is it's just Matt Turner has been there for the big games. And not that that's everything, but when you're splitting hairs, and really I think between Turner and Freeze, you are kind of going, okay, well, who's the better goalkeeper? I don't know if it's necessarily clear.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go with the player who literally has played in World Cups, right? Matt Turner has played in 4 World Cup matches, right? And conceded he's conceded 4 total goals, but let's not pretend like the Netherlands match was his fault necessarily.
Right.
Went through a qualifying campaign, all these things. Not saying that Matt Freeze hasn't been good. His only real test was the Gold Cup. I mean, truly, right? In terms of international tournament experience. it's just hard to fully trust that the way that I know Matt Turner can play well. And I think now that he's back at New England playing regularly, helps that they're not, the best defensive team. So he is getting a lot of end game practice. It does seem like he has steadied and is a way better shot stopper than what we saw in the past couple outings where, especially when he wasn't playing as a professional, it was like, oh boy, what happened to Matt Turner? So I think that move did truly help him. Not saying he's perfect, but I don't think Matt Freese is perfect either. That's why I would go with Turner. But again, I think Pochettino is going to start Matt Freese because that's who he likes.
Okay.
Even though he refuses to acknowledge it, because why would we do that?
Well, but we also don't know what we don't know. He could be saying things behind the scenes and forcing folks under penalty of death and dismemberment not to say anything. So, because you want your opposition to prepare for every eventuality. Yeah.
Who was it 2 or 3 years ago? The starter at UGA, the starting quarterback, and Kirby was like, "Oh, we're not naming a starter," but it was like, I think it was Stetson was coming back for like however many he was at UGA after winning a national championship, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to name a starting quarterback," and it's like,
bruh, it's going to be Stetson Bennett. It's going to be Stetson Bennett. But that's the thing is like I understand and I take press conferences when folks are asked who's going to start and all this kind of stuff. I take it with grains of salt because if a coach tells me we haven't decided yet, that just means that is not for public consumption and he's not going to tell you. And if Kirby's not going to tell you, then Mauricio's not going to tell you. And people, when you ask questions, then you're going to get the political answer and you just want to get that on tape. So
we have decided we're not telling you yet.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, we know, and that falls under the none ya file. None ya damn business.
Yeah.
It's a none ya
Not
file.
that it matters.
No. So that's that's just kind of how I look at it. One more thing, and then I'll let you get out of there. If Chris Richards cannot go, and I know we're still waiting on daily updates and all these kinds of things. If Chris Richards cannot go, what do you think the back three looks like?
Well, again, I think it'll look very similar to what we saw against Germany. I think you'll see Freeman on that. I think he has solidified that starting role as the right back. I would go McKenzie. Miles Robinson, unfortunately, has not looked good these past two friendlies. I think that's it just has to be said. He's not an Atlanta kid anymore. We don't have to defend him.
Yeah.
He's the one who chose to go to Cincinnati and ruin his career. That's not our fault. I think it'll be McKenzie next to Ream and then Anthony on the left side. That's just what I would do. Miles did not have a good game against Senegal. I don't fully blame him for the goal, the set piece goal that Germany scored early on, but he does get fooled quite easily by a pretty simple dummy run and just doesn't track anyone. And I just can't have that. Not that Mark McKenzie is like that much better, but I think he's a slightly more reliable defender at this point. So I would put McKenzie and Ream in the back line with Freeman on the right and Robinson on the left.
Right on. All right. So what are you and the Soccer for USPod doing between now and kickoff, where we are awaiting the future of Julio Enciso in addition to everything else?
We are going to record tonight. So that episode will probably drop tomorrow or Friday morning. Depends on how quickly I can turn around that editing process.
I was going to say.
And it'll be, looking it'll be looking back at this friendly, but then using those friendlies to look at, the actual World Cup. Again, I think we have some clarity on lineups. I think we have some clarity on formations and styles of play. And, it's interesting, John, because as we've talked a lot about this, we've played all three of our group stage opponents in the past 6 months or 12 months.
Sure.
The only one we lost to was Turkey. And I think it's very fair to say that the lineup that would take the field against Turkey is not the lineup that took the field against Turkey back in 2025. Right. That game, we still looked pretty decent. So I think it's fair to be comfortable, confident. You're allowed to be confident. I'm going to say this. You're allowed to be confident in the U.S. men's national team.
Optimism
You're
is
allowed to think that they might actually
sir.
play some soccer. You can look at this and go, yeah, we should beat Paraguay. We should beat Australia, beat Turkey. Those are statements you're allowed to make and feel in your heart. This team and say they can win the group. And if they win the group, they're playing a third place team in the round of 6 and the round of 32. Sorry, I forgot we had 87 teams in this tournament.
Correct.
You can feel good about that. And then you look at the next round, you go, okay, we can beat whoever we're playing against. It's possible. Allow yourself to have hope. If you don't have hope now, what are you doing in this sport? Be hopeful, be positive, be confident. And because if you're not, what's the damn point of watching, John? I'm a Mountaineer fan. I've had hope my entire life that ain't worked out. We're going to Omaha on Friday, John. I tell you what, I'm glad I had my annual physical yesterday, because good Lord, my blood pressure was good at that point. Don't ask me what my blood pressure is around 5 o'clock on Friday when the Mountaineers are in Omaha and we got T-minus 3 hours until kickoff for USMNT. But you're allowed to be hopeful. You're allowed to be confident. You're allowed to be positive on this team. It's okay. We do soccer well in this country. Don't let whatever Brit on Twitter is telling you that our stadiums suck. That is false. Don't let whatever Brit on television or on TV say, oh, it's too damn hot. You know what? That's a you problem, Britain. Suck it up. Oh, well, they don't even like soccer. We got 40 to 80 million people in this damn country that love this sport, and you're one of them. So frickin' fall in love with it right now and fall in love with this team. Let's go.
I was waiting to see what your plans were going to be on Friday, and if you were heading to Omaha. Yeah, I was going to see if you're going to be
not in Omaha. I will be at Decatur Watch Fest on Friday with the American Outlaws. We'll be there, as well as our normal home at Fido Irish Pub, but we have the outdoor viewing party as well. At Decatur Watch Fest. So if you want to come to either of those places, you will find people who are cheering for the U.S. team and believe in the U.S. team.
And you play Troy on Friday, and someone is going to have won their first ever College World Series game in that matchup with Troy and West Virginia on Friday. So, so somebody needs to have a sphygmomanometer and be there with Bart to check his blood pressure and get the cuff squared away. Do it on the left arm, considering he's right-handed and needs that one to be free to do other things. Obviously, are going to be knocking on your door. You're going to be back on Monday to talk about what happened over the weekend, and it's just going to run from there. So catch your breath now, brother. It's going to get hot and heated, and it's going to be 9,000 miles an hour if it wasn't already.
It's an exciting time to be a soccer fan in this country. Let's enjoy it, y'all.
What he said. All right, Bart, we'll see you soon, my friend. Thanks for coming in. There he goes.
Bye, y'all.
And there he goes with the cup of coffee. All right, let's get into news. And there are a couple of things that we need to get into this morning. Just news and notes quickly. NYCFC, it is defender Strahinja Tanasiewicz has departed the club. That just came across a couple of minutes ago. And joined in February of 24, 43 appearances in all comps. And so basically mutually parting of the ways with NYCFC and Tanasiewicz. LA Galaxy is going to be hosting Club America in a friendly, and that is going to be on July 11th. We'll keep an eye on that one as well. Now, news this morning. We're going to go overseas, and we'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. It might be just watching old films or watch Tay Say. If you've got Fanatis, watch Tay Say. We'll get into that in a second. Everton have been ordered to pay Burnley £35 million after losing a legal dispute over their PSR breaches. Everton deducted an initial points for breaching PSR back in 21-22. Punishment implemented 2 years later. Penalty reduced to 6 upon appeal. Subsequently deducted another 2 points for breaches. Remember, Sean Dyche saves them from relegation. Everybody was happy. Burnley finished 18th, relegated from the top flight. Now set to receive compensation and interest from the Toffees, who will obviously appeal the ruling. £35 million figure represents a record-breaking compensation agreement after Burnley had originally sought over £50 million Everton sued by the Clarets after they were relegated to the Championship in 22. Case had centered on the fact that Everton would have been relegated had the points deduction been applied during that season. Statement, Everton makes it surprised and angered by the decision of Premier League Disco to order compensation payments. Appealed the decision that the ruling is fundamentally flawed in both law and fact. The club does not recognize the findings of the panel in determining Burnley's relegation from the Premier League in May of 22 was caused by a sporting advantage gained by Everton due to a breach of PSR, which for a substantive sporting sanction has already been received. Ruling sets a dangerous and unworkable precedent for English football, given it's constructed on principle that a club can be in breach of financial rules at any point in a financial year. And then Everton continued for 4 more paragraphs. So Burnley attempts to establish causation, and they were awarded. The number, to some experts, looks really high, but if relegation was effectively deemed caused by the overspend, then you're trying to reclaim lost wages that you would have picked up in the Premier League. So Burnley promoted back twice, and Everton avoided the drop in 23-24. Kieran Maguire's revealed how the ruling could now impact Manchester City and their version on FFP. On Twitter, Maguire said the case has huge implications for clubs who feel they were disadvantaged by Chelsea's breach, and if found guilty, clubs who may have lost out to Manchester City for trophies and Champions League places. Any sports lawyers thinking of going on a holiday may have to postpone them, end quote. And so Kieran Maguire, very, very busy to discuss PSR and all of those things. Also, now it is the rundown of gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. We'll get into that as well and see if there's any other news that we might have forgotten. We'll catch up with our buddy Ben Jacobs, and we will see what is on Ben's mind. Obviously, yeah, Everton's going to appeal. Ben had a long screed about it this morning. He went like 9,000 characters. And let's see. So let me get into the Ben Jacobs category here. And Ben this morning, Newcastle confirmed that USWNT has joined from Reims on a long-term contract. He hasn't signed the deal, at least in the photograph. He's doing the handshake, and he has the pen hovering above the contract, but he does have a smile on his face for the picture that was taken by Newcastle. Also, it was Brighton remaining in talks on Joel Veltman over a new contract. They look to avoid having him leave on free agency. Ben Davies signed a new one-year deal at Spurs, keeping him at the club until the summer 27. Spurs also confirmed Yves Bissouma will leave on a free. Raul Jimenez, that deal with Wolves and rejoining on a free after leaving Fulham as a 2+1. So that's the latest from Ben Jacobs this morning on transfers and everything else overseas. We are starting to get word on all of the activities going on with teams and pressers and so on. So we'll let you know what's going on with all of that. And getting into, where's my gossip, rumor, and innuendo? Let's see. Scrolling. Where's my USMNT material? Okay, so here we go. Transfers. Talk, once again, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And as always, depending on your source, be very, very careful where you get your information. We always let you know where we're finding ours. Arsenal now in prime position to land Atletico de Madrid striker Julian Alvarez this summer, according to AS. Gunners are the only team in the race with the funds to land the deal. Barca won't extend beyond €100 million. And riled Atletico with their bid to sign the striker. By the way, that back and forth on Twitter was amazing. And La Liga rivals Real Madrid saw a €150 million offer rejected with similar derision. Once again, go on Twitter and see that stuff. Both La Liga clubs seemingly out of the race. AS claims Arsenal could now act to land Alvarez, though it would clearly take a near world record offer to land him. United eyeing a deal to sign Leeds keeper Carl Darlow on a free, according to The Athletic. Wales International, a free agent next month. Leeds trying to agree to an extension. United searching for an experienced backup behind Sene Lamans, as Alte Bayendier is expected to leave. Recently relegated Wolves keeper Sam Johnston is another possibility. City interested in the potential return for Pedro Porro, according to The Athletic. Reports claim the club are in the market for a right back, Porro having 2 years remaining on his deal. Spain international at Manchester City from 19 to 22, failed to make an impression before leaving for Sporting CP. Since 23, he's been a regular starter at Spurs. Bournemouth value Alex Scott transferred £80 million, according to TalkSport. Cherry's determined to keep hold of him, offered him a new contract, which could include a release clause. Liverpool, Manchester United have been monitoring. Arsenal, Manchester City interested in a move for Tino Livramento from Newcastle, facing a stumbling block over the valuation. Team Talk reports world record fee for a right back, which sits at €68 million from Ashraf Hakimi's move to PSG in 2021, will be required for any exit to go through. Livramento contracted with Newcastle until 28 and pressed those at Arsenal and Man City reservations on a deal of that length. The deal on Juan, by the way, at Newcastle, €28.5 million. London City, once again, still leading the race on Alexis Putellas. Other rumors. One of either Liam Delap or Nico Jackson could leave Chelsea permanently in the summer window. That's from The Athletic. Hertha Berlin's Kenneth Eichhorn has turned down a move to Liverpool, has decided to join Bayer Leverkusen. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Nicolas Schira, Juve, standing firm on their stance. Keenan Yildiz, not available this summer, as the forward has attracted interest from Arsenal and Chelsea. Bayern progressing in talks with Eintracht Frankfurt to sign Arsenal and Manchester United target Nathaniel Brown. Medical plan to North America while the left back is away on world duty with Germany. If a €50 million agreement is agreed between clubs reached soon. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Nicolas Schira. Villa open to an exit for Emi Martinez. Juve have started talks. Manchester Evening News. United not lining up an offer for Christian Romero despite reports of interest from the Red Devils. Talk Sport. Hull City considering a move for Callum Wilson as the forward is set to leave relegated West Ham. Also Talk Sport. Kieran McKenna increasingly likely to leave this summer. Fulham is looking to replace Marco Silva, possibly with Kieran McKenna. £8 million clause in his contract at Portman Road. And that is the gossip, the rumor, and the innuendo. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. By the way, if you didn't see it, TSA was all over the coverage yesterday from here in Auburn about the torrential rains, the biblical proportion hurricane that was here in the late afternoon hours. They were showing everything live with the squeegees and the air blowers, and it was fantastic television. It was great television live to see something happen leading into Argentina and Iceland in the Road to 26. You get TSA, you get all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs, which means you get everything Middle East and North Africa. You get CAF, you get AFCON. They were in the U17s recently. You get all that. You get Libertadores, Sudamericana. You get the French League, the Polish League, and the Turkish League on BN. And you get ties to Tigo Sports. You get ties to CATV. You get Copa Argentina through our friends at TSA. TVV in Venezuela, if you want to add it. If you've got a certain cable system and you have the Spanish package, then you don't have to add it because it's already there. You've got CDO out of Chile, CDO and CDO2. You have a lot of the A and B divisions from a lot of different places in South America. LPF out of Argentina, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. It's all there at Fanatis. fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. Helps them, helps us, helps you. Today, Fox Soccer Plus, Portugal and Nigeria at 3:45. It's Canadian Premier League, Toronto and Cavalry at 7:30. FS2 has England and Costa Rica at 4. They have Forge and Halifax at 7. ESPN Deportes, Spanish Segunda playoffs continue. Malaga and Las Palmas is at 3. The Reveo tournament continues on Fox Deportes at 1 o'clock. Colombia and Tunisia. ESPN Plus has your La Liga 2 playoffs. They have the USL Championship. Triple header available. USL Cup. I don't know what a Prinks is. I think it's a tire. I still haven't seen a Prinks tire. They're the sponsor of the Cup. 2 games available at 7. 3 League 1 matches, including Alta AV and Sarasota at 11. Charlotte and Omaha at 7:30. Westchester and Fort Wayne at 7. Fox ONE has the Reveo, the Friendlies, and the CPL. Paramount Plus has Tampa Bay and Charlotte at 7 o'clock USL Championship, and that is what you can watch. That's a day. All right, we got to talk women's national team. We got to talk men's national team. We got to talk about Auburn. We got to talk about 88,000 people in one place, and we are efforting a whole bunch of conversations in and around the sport as we go, and we get closer and closer and closer to this World Cup thing that we talk about. Thanks to Bart, thanks to Jarrett, thanks to Dylan, thanks to y'all, and back at it again once again tonight. That reminds me, I've got to get your scenarios squared away for Jason and Atlanta Soccer tonight, and the breakdown there is when it starts and when it goes and how long it's going to go. So now it is 7 o'clock. SDH Live, local Vine in Vinings, recapping everything around the World Cup kickoff hours away. 10 o'clock, final pre-tournament edition of Atlanta Soccer Tonight. 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. Jason's going to have that. So come and join us at Cumberland for local Vine on Cobb Parkway. We're there from 7 to 9. Jason is going to have what's going on with the Atlanta Soccer Tonight. It's going to start 10 o'clock, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app. Stoppage time after that. 92.9 The Game YouTube channel is going to have the entire broadcast up as it always does, but a three-dimensional experience. 92.9 The Game Odyssey from 10 to 11, 11 and beyond stoppage time. That is all going to be on the YouTube channel, and it will be that way all tournament long. Start times may vary day to day depending on the action going on. We'll keep you posted, as we always do. If you have not subscribed to the Morning Espresso, please do so. Go to soccerdownhere.net. Put your email right in the box and hit send. You get Morning Espresso every morning, Jason's tour to get you squared away before we come on the air and before we send the day off and come back in our various forms. So once again, thanks to all you folks that were here this morning and a part of everything that we are going on. Ricky, Ropes, Wiley, and Will, and I saw Katie Weaver. There's Katie Weaver, and there's Will once again, and Ricky, and yes, and then Morning David. Ricky, one of the coolest things about last night, besides the fact there was an actual international soccer match at Jordan-Hare Stadium, is that the beat writers I follow and people I see here on Talk Another Auburn Sports are talking about this match and enjoying the spectacle of it. Pretty cool. You're damn right. Once again, it reminds everyone the stuff we already know, but sometimes folks need to be reminded. We know that it's not, you can't pin down a city and sit there and stereotype it and go, well, they don't care. They don't know what's going on. Yeah, they do. College Station over the weekend, Auburn here. It is the SEC, or at least it was 5-day period where it just means Moss. But we know this, and it is up to us every single day to remind everybody that we all love the game just the same. Doesn't matter what your zip code is. So, Atlanta Soccer tonight. But before that, local Vine, Cumberland, 7 to 9. We'll all be there. Bookham Dano, aloha. For everybody here at SDH, back in studio tomorrow because tomorrow, games start. We got to get gassed up and ready to go for all that. It's going to be the Power Hour in hour number 2. Nino and Nico. We're efforting guests from the Plains. We'll figure out when that can happen as a part of everything, and we'll break it all down for you here. So, since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this back here in about 21 hours and 38 minutes, at least back here. 7 to 9 tonight, local Vine, Atlanta Soccer tonight. After that, mucho plati, I'll play, Stave. Catch up with you in a bit.